Hello everybody and welcome to the life of a board gamer. My name is Daniel and today we are going to paint a miniature from the game So Long My World. So let's get down and paint this really cool miniature. We have this really cool miniature that we are going to paint, but first we are going to paint this awesome base that comes with the miniature, and we are going to paint them separately because this base looks really awesome and it deserves to be painted as well as the miniature. So first of all we are going to start with the beige brown color and we are going to paint over the entire base with it. So just load up your brush and just start applying it over the entire miniature. You have to water down your colors a bit with just a regular water, so thin them down, and when you do it you have to give about 2 coats of paint to a miniature to make color looking really nice. As you can see now it looks like a bit transparent on some places. Okay, so the paint is dried and we are going to use a right lined flesh shade from Citadel, and we are just going to go over the entire miniature with it just to give it some more definition. And you just be very generous with it and spread it all over the entire miniature. See how you get this nice looking definition. So the paint is nice and dry, so we are going to go with the brown sand paint next. And what you want to do is load up the brush with the paint and just go over these spikes that are sticking out. You just go like this all over them, and over these stones also. Go like this and like this and this, and do that for every spike. Try to avoid recesses, so you leave a little shade inside those recesses. Now paint is dry and we are going to use yellow ochre, and we are just going to go over the top half of all these spikes, just in this kind of motion. Just go like this and create some highlights. And now when the paint is all dried up as usual, we are going to take a buff color, and you just want to load up your brush with the color and just go with the side of your brush, not with the tip or anything, just side of the brush, and just go over the hard edges and push it toward top like this, and you do it like so. You see, just like over here, and for example over here. And when this paint is dried, we have this really cool, nice looking miniature with the spikes going out of the base. I must say this is really cool base. But let's go and see how we are going to paint the miniature itself. Okay, so we have the miniature, and first we are going to go over her pants and her hair and all that, and we are going to use field blue. It's kind of grayish color, and we are just going to go and paint her pants and her hair, and also all these things over here. We'll neaten this up at the later stages, and we are going to go over her hair also and over all these parts. Okay, now when the paint is dried, we are going to use a burnt red color, and we are going to paint her entire cape and her hands up to the fists. That will leave out because we are going to paint them as a skin, not as a gloves. So you just take the burnt red and start applying it in 2 thin colors so you get really nice smooth paint all over this cape. Okay, so the paint is now dry, and the next step is to paint all these metal parts that she has on her. And first of all, we are going to use True Copper from the Army Painter War Paint series, and it's a metallic paint. So what you want to do is go all over these metal parts, in particular her shoulder. There's some on her arms also, and there's some of these on the cape on this side and over here, and there's also these insignias all over her cape going over here, so we'll paint that also. Okay, so we finished all the metal parts of the miniature, and now we are just going to touch up hair just a little bit, and we are going to go and wash it with the black wash. But first of all, we are going to need a neutral gray color, and you are going to do a dry brush of that color. So dry brush is basically you have like small amount of paint on some rubbish old brush that you find. Don't use new brush for this kind of stuff, and you just wipe everything on the tissue, and then you just go and start dry brushing the hair. When you are done with the dry brush, you will go with blue-gray pale color and do a second dry brush, but only this time you won't go over the entire hair, but you will go like, for example, let's go from the middle part all the way down. So what we are trying to do is make her like her hair is grayer and grayer toward the end of the tips, and it will be nice transition from gray to white, because we are going to use white color also. Okay, so we are done with the dry brush of blue-gray pale, and the next dry brush we are going to go with the foundation white, and we are just going to stick to the tips of the hair. We are not going to go all over the hair. We are just going to go over like from the half all the way down to the very tips of the hair, and we now get a really nice transition from gray to almost white color. Everything is nice and dry, and we are going to use a Nuln oil shade from Citadel, and we are going to go over the entire miniature with it. And just be careful, and if you see some shade pooling in some places, just try avoid that and spread it all over miniature equally, just so it goes over the smooth edges and gets kept in the recesses. And you do this for entire miniature. Okay, now that everything is dried, all the shade is completely dry, we are going to start and bring out the details of the miniatures back to the front, and we are going to start with the neutral gray and just go all over the gray parts of her uniform and just neat everything up and try to avoid the details, that recesses of the miniatures, and just go over the raised parts of the miniature, like for example her pants and all this cloth over here. And once we are done with that, we are going to use the blue-gray pale color, and we are just going to go over the very sharp edges of the miniature, just trying to accent that a little bit, like so. And over here, and let's go over the knee a bit. And also, while we are here with the same color, we are just going to do a few touch-ups with the hair here and there, just give it a little definition. And once we did all that, let's start bringing highlights to the cape. We are going to go over with it again with the burnt red, and you just go over all the raised details of the miniature, so avoiding these recesses where the shade pulled, because we want to keep that shade in there. So just go over the raised details very carefully to not do anything to the shades. Now that we brought these details a bit further, we are going to use a carmine red and just bring them a little bit more. Do it exactly as we did the first time, but just now avoid even more and just go over the very top of the cape, just the raised parts, and bring these out a little bit more, and it will look really nice. Okay, now we have finished with her cape. It's completely done, and we are going to touch up a little bit on this metal part that we did with the copper. And now we are going to use a greedy gold from the Army Painter War Paint series, and we are just going to touch up here and there on the miniature, nothing much. We don't want to go too much with this paint because then it would be too shiny, and we just wanted to have it like a little glow here and there. So basically you just go all over the top and just kind of lightly brush over these parts, nothing much, just on some raised details. And now that we did all the gold parts, don't forget there's also some on the cape, and if you by accident go over the cape, just go and touch it up with the red back to life. It's really not that hard. And now we just need to do these straps around her legs and these over here, and for that we are going to use a beige brown as the base color, and we are going to highlight it with the brown sand. So you just take some brown sand on your brush and as neatly as possible go all over these straps. Try to not mess up everything you've done so far, because it would be really a shame if you do it. And with this color done, we are going to use a brown sand and just touch up and bring out the details the same as we did on a cape and everything else. Just be very neat about it and try to avoid destroying miniature like I just did over here, so I'll have to neat that up a little bit. And with that done, all we need to do is just paint the rest of the face and hands, and the miniature is almost complete. For that we are going to start with dark flesh, and we are just going to apply it all over the flesh parts. When we painted all this, we are going to use Reichland flesh shade and go with it all over these skin parts to give it more tone and definition. Just be very careful to not overdo it. Just go neatly and with just a little shade, nothing too much. And now when the wash is all dried up, it kind of has this reddish look, so we are going to go with basic skin tone, and we are going to go over just the raised details like fingers, for example, and her cheekbone, and just to bring everything back up a little bit. With the hair done, we just mount the miniature on this cool looking base, and it is finished. So that was that. I hope you liked the tutorial and I see you next time. Pozdrav!